What if the seed that could feed humanity was also the one destroying its future? A single crop now covers more land than any forest left in Southeast Asia. It feeds our livestock, fuels our industries, and hides in nearly everything we eat. It's hailed as the miracle bean, the savior of modern protein. But every miracle has its shadow. This is the story of soy, how a 3,000-year-old discovery built empires, fed armies, and shaped civilizations. And how the same seed that can nourish a sustainable future is being co-opted to feed the machinery of the world's most predatory corporations, leaving behind a trail of burned forests, lost cultures, and one haunting question: can we really feed the world without eating the planet? By 1100 BCE, Chinese farmers were watching their civilization face a crisis. Decades of intensive farming had stripped the soil of nutrients. Yields were falling, hunger was rising, and the traditional solution, letting fields lie fallow, meant starvation. Then, on the fringes of their farmlands, they noticed something strange: a wild plant that made the soil richer instead of poorer. Wherever it grew, crops flourished the next year. The plant was a variety of wild soybean. Without knowing it, they had discovered biological nitrogen fixation, bacteria in the plant's roots pulling nitrogen from the air and depositing it in the soil. This discovery changed everything. For the first time in human history, a society could regenerate soil fertility while producing a high-protein crop. The seeds contained nearly 40% protein by weight, comparable to meat. No grazing land required. No livestock needed. It was a quiet revolution, one that allowed China's population to expand beyond what was possible anywhere else at the time. Soy became one of the 5 sacred grains. It was tax currency, life insurance, and symbol of balance between humans and Earth. But this knowledge stayed hidden for millennia. Trade routes carried silk, porcelain, and gunpowder across continents, but not soy. Because knowledge doesn't spread simply because it's valuable. It spreads when people have a reason to carry it. That reason would come not from merchants, but from monks. By the 6th century CE, Buddhist monks were traveling across Asia, spreading a message of compassion and facing a biological problem. Their faith forbade killing animals, yet they still needed protein to survive long pilgrimages through mountains and deserts. Their salvation came in the form of a bean. Soy was light, non-perishable, and could be transformed in ways no other plant could. Monks learned to ferment it into pastes and sauces that lasted months, even in the tropical heat. They could eat, travel, and live without breaking their vows. But fermentation wasn't just spiritual ingenuity. It was early biochemistry. Raw soybeans contain enzyme inhibitors that block digestion and can be toxic. Fermentation and coagulation neutralize these compounds, making soy safe and nutritious. Monks in Japan refined this into miso and natto. In Korea, it became doenjang and gonjang. In Indonesia, tempeh. Every region developed its own solution to the same problem, centuries before Western science understood why it worked. These monasteries became research labs long before the concept existed. For 1,000 years, Asian civilizations thrived on a food system built around soy, producing meat-level protein without raising animals. And yet, despite centuries of trade, soy remained almost invisible to the West. Marco Polo never mentioned it. European botanists cataloged tens of thousands of Asian species and ignored it. The West would only rediscover soy when it faced its own collapse. By the late 1800s, American agriculture was dying. Decades of cotton and wheat had stripped the soil bare. Dust storms darkened the skies across the Midwest. The U.S. Department of Agriculture sent a young botanist, William Morse, to Asia to study how Japanese farmers kept their fields fertile for centuries. Everywhere he went, from the rice terraces of Kyoto to the paddies of Shandong, Morse saw soy. He saw rotation cycles that restored soil health, livestock fed with soy meal, families eating tofu daily. He came home convinced this crop could save American agriculture. He wrote papers, distributed seeds, begged farmers to try it, but few listened. To most, soy was an Oriental curiosity. But then, the Great Depression hit. Fields failed. Dust Bowl winds carried topsoil away. Desperation did what logic couldn't. It made farmers experiment. Soy turned out to be exactly what Morse had promised, a crop that healed the land while feeding people and animals. Slowly, America caught on. By 1940, soy fields were spreading across the Midwest, just in time for war. In 1942, the U.S. military faced a crisis of its own, a protein shortage. Supply lines were cut, refrigeration was limited, and troops needed dense, portable nutrition. Food scientists turned to soy. They crushed it, refined it, and turned it into flour, oil, and protein isolate. At first, soldiers refused to eat it. Early soy rations caused stomach pain because scientists hadn't yet learned how to neutralize trypsin inhibitors. Then, by 1943, research solved the problem. High heat and defatting made soy both digestible and palatable. Soy lecithin was used to stabilize chocolate in tropical climates. Soy flour extended bread. Soy oil powered military vehicles. By the end of the war, U.S. soybean production had doubled. Soy didn't win World War II, but it helped feed the army that did. And when peace came, the infrastructure stayed. Crushing plants, rail systems, storage silos, all still in place. Food companies realized they could make cheap protein for peacetime consumers. The miracle bean had entered the industrial age. By the 1970s, soy made another transformation, from military ration to moral symbol. When Frances Moore Lappé published Diet for a Small Planet in 1971, she argued that combining grains and legumes, especially soy, could feed the world more efficiently than meat. The counterculture embraced it, and tofu entered the health food stores. By the 1990s, the FDA approved a claim that soy protein reduced heart disease. Supermarkets filled with soy burgers and soy milk. For a brief moment, soy looked like the food of the future. Then came the backlash. Bodybuilding forums spread rumors that soy's phytoestrogens feminized men. The term soy boy was born. Science didn't support it. Studies showed moderate consumption had no hormonal effects, but the myth stuck. Then, environmentalists took aim. Satellite images showed vast tracts of Brazilian rainforest cleared for soy plantations. Between 2000 and 2010, South America lost millions of acres of forest and savanna. But the real culprit wasn't tofu. Over 75% of global soy went not to humans, but to livestock. Chickens, pigs, and cattle were consuming the bean once meant to replace them. Soy had become the quiet engine of the global meat industry, feeding the very system it was supposed to solve. In 2011, Patrick Brown, a Stanford biochemist, sat down to calculate the biggest driver of environmental destruction.
Impossible Foods has figured out a way to make uncompromisingly delicious and nutritious meats directly from plants without using animals, and with a tiny fraction of the greenhouse gas emissions, water requirements, and land use of making these same foods using animals?
The answer wasn't cars or plastic. It was meat and the crops grown to feed it. For every 100 calories of feed, livestock return less than 10 as meat. The rest is waste. Brown decided to bypass the animals altogether. His company, Impossible Foods, engineered soy legumoglobin, a molecule in soy roots that mimics the heme in animal blood, giving meat its flavor. The result was revolutionary, a plant-based burger that bled, sizzled, and satisfied. It wasn't just a new food. It was a new idea that we could have the experience of meat without the cost to life and land. Within a decade, plant-based meat became a billion-dollar industry. But even this new miracle relies on the old infrastructure. The same industrial soy farms, the same monocultures, the same global supply chains. Soy had come full circle, from sacred to scientific, from soil healer to soil killer, and now perhaps back again to redemption. Every seed tells a story, but few tell it as completely as soy. It's the story of human ingenuity and human amnesia. From ancient China's farmers to modern biochemists, we've seen what this bean can do: feed civilizations, restore ecosystems, and power industries. But we've also seen what happens when profit replaces purpose. Small producers across Brazil and Paraguay are proving it doesn't have to be this way. Rotating soy with native crops, reforesting degraded lands, creating fair trade cooperatives that heal soil and community alike. Meanwhile, global giants like Cargill, ADM, and Bunge continue to expand, clearing millions of acres each year while marketing their operations as sustainable. Soy's moral struggle mirrors our own: progress without conscience, abundance without balance. The question isn't whether soy is good or bad. It's whether we've learned to handle power without turning it into destruction. Next time you eat, ask, where did this protein come from? Who grew it? What forest stood here before? Because the story of soy isn't just about a bean. It's about us, our hunger, our memory, and our ability to choose. The same seed that fed ancient empires might still feed the future if we remember the balance it once represented. The earth can feed us all, if we learn, again, how to listen.